nobody is employed, or maybe just one. And, financial commitments have overrun them.
The Minister of Social Services stepping up to tear down squalor. A founding member of the PLP dies. Tonight, he's remembered as a trailblazer. And you won't believe what police say these men have done. The Bahamas Tonight starts now.
Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report. I'm Kishla Adderley. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news this evening, a founding member of the Progressive Liberal Party and party politics in the Bahamas has died. William Bill Cartwright passed away around 4 o'clock this morning at the Good Samaritan Senior Citizens Home in Yellow Elder Gardens, where he was a resident. Tonight, Clint Watson takes a look at his final days and his legacy.
His significance and importance in Bahamian history is immeasurable, but sadly many believe that it's been either overlooked or downplayed on a national level. William Bill Cartwright is considered the founder of party politics in the Bahamas. Seeing the direction the country was headed in under a government many considered racially skewed, he formed an association of blacks and underprivileged persons into a united force. He shared his idea with others like Cyril Stevenson and Henry Milton Taylor, who together went abroad to be trained in party politics. In 1949, Cartwright represented Cat Island in Parliament, and later in the 50s, with his colleagues, organized the Progressive Liberal Party. His contribution to the PLP was significant, particularly in financing the party. He opted to serve as treasurer rather than leader. His achievements in shaping politics in the Bahamas and the rights of Bahamians are what have been the driving force behind head of the National Heroes Committee, Father Sebastian Campbell's fight to advocate for a national honor.
Over the years, the National Heroes Committee has tried real hard to raise consciousness as to the existence and the contributions of William Cartwright to our Bahamian people, to the government, to the people, etc. And it seemed as though it never really got traction. But we as a committee, we declared him on behalf of the Bahamian people a national hero.
The honor for Cartwright didn't stop there. He was honored last year with a service of recognition. In an effort to provide finances for him after he fell on hard times, the First Christie administration hired Cartwright as a consultant in the Ministry of Youth. This reportedly was terminated in 2007 by the Ingram administration. Since then, Cartwright reportedly fell into even harder times, leaving him on the streets. He was eventually taken in by Good Samaritan Senior Citizens Home, where Reverend Kendall Capron and his staff became his primary caretakers up to his death.
Was a man that was well loved, by many. But I still think Mr. Cartwright was cut short of some things. Could have been done for him that wasn't done. He was roaming the road, the streets for months because he couldn't pay his bills, he couldn't pay his rent, because the money that the Christian government gave him was taken away.
Let me ask you in that case, and what did the Progressive Liberal Party, for which he fought so hard, what did they do when the government removed his subsidy?
Nothing. Nothing. I call, and I call, and I call. Nothing.
His most recent fond memory of Cartwright was Election Day, May 7th. He says although he suffered from memory loss, he was his normal self.
He watched and this is the results. Mr. Cartwright asked if the PLP win all the seats. I said, not all, but most. Mr. Cartwright said, now I can leave. I'm ready to go.
Now, right after our interview, Mr. Capron received a phone call from the Cabinet Office advising that there will be some formal recognition from the government at the burial service of Mr. Cartwright. He did say to us, however, though, that initially they said there will not be a monetary contribution, and that's why he's appealing to the public to come forward and assist in burying Mr. Cartwright, as there is no money left in the name of Mr. Cartwright for his own burial. Clint Watson, ZNS News.
Now, Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Christie has paid tribute to Cartwright, one of the last surviving founding fathers of the Progressive Liberal Party. Mr. Christie, offering condolences to the Cartwright family, said a state funeral will be held in his honor.
Mr. Cartwright, a native Long Islander, was the last surviving founder of the Progressive Liberal Party, having been preceded in death by Sir Henry Taylor, and Cyril Stevenson. Together, they hold a singular place in Bahamian history as the co-founders in 1953 of the first national political party in the Bahamas. At the time, Mr. Cartwright was also the representative for Cat Island in the House of Assembly. A realtor and, in later life, a magazine publisher, Mr. Cartwright was a man of great faith and humility. He was always at pains to play down the historical role he had played in laying the foundations for party politics in the Bahamas. Although he personally suffered a great deal for that, and for his courageous battle against the racial and economic injustices of his day, he was never one to hold grudges against anyone. He was a man of enormous goodwill, and a spirit of reconciliation was deeply embedded in his character.
In other news tonight, after a disturbing story aired on ZNS News last night about a father and son living in squalor on Quarry Mission Road, the Minister of Social Services, Melanie Griffin, is speaking out on that family's poor living state. Griffin said the Stirrup family did not spend the night in their dilapidated home. And tonight, LaDawn Davis talks to the minister about what her ministry plans to do to assist that family and others like them.
You have some families where there were people, 2, 3 people employed, now none. Nobody is employed, or maybe just one. And, financial commitments have overrun them.
Minister of Social Services Melanie Griffin says father and son Earl Stirrup Sr. and Jr. are just one family out of thousands of families living in homes that are not up to social services standards. While she was not able to give exact figures, the Social Services Minister says going beyond the normal assessment process is a goal her ministry plans on doing to ensure that Bahamians living in squalor get the best accommodations and assistance possible.
In a situation like that, they would most likely have been put up temporarily, and then as we work out a long-term solution. It is good to know that particularly in that situation, the son is employed, and so social services would work out with him, how we could get them in alternative long-term accommodations, if it means assisting with rent.
When it comes to home repairs, demolition, and rebuilding for senior citizens like 74-year-old Earl Stirrup Sr., Mrs. Griffin says there is a new small house repairs program currently being implemented.
The government itself, through its urban renewal program, will also have a small house repairs program that will assist persons who at this time their houses, falling into disrepair, and because of course they're unemployed or for whatever reason the houses are falling into disrepair, they would be assisted.
But the biggest eye-opener of it all is that rental assistance seems to be the biggest payout for social services. This assists thousands of Bahamians that have joined the unemployment line because of the economic recession.
You find a lot of people are being evicted from apartments where they were unable to pay the rent. And some landlords have extended themselves, and they've been very, very helpful as far as they could. But of course, they too have their own financial commitments, and so it gets to a certain point, yes, where they have to evict people.
The Social Services Minister says her ministry will continue to assist Bahamians to meet the requirements that will enable them to live in peace and comfort. LaDawn Davis, ZNS News.
Commissioner of Police Allison Greenslade says he's looking to improve the quality of the Victim Care Unit service. It's intended to render grief assistance to relatives of crime victims and to help resolve conflicts. It's also intended to portray a softer side of policing at every level.
Each time a murder occurs or each time we have a serious matter, family members are invited in. We are proactive in doing that, in sitting them down and talking to them and trying to get to the bottom, a better understanding of what has led to the unfortunate end game or end situation. And that has paid tremendously good dividends for us. We must do more work in that regard, and not only in CDU, but we would now venture to say that should be happening at all police divisions.
Now, Mr. Greenslade also talked about the importance of the Witness Protection Program. He says witnesses will not be forced to stay in the protective custody of police, but that if their lives are threatened, they should reconsider a decision to move.
We have invested lots of money in the Witness Protection Program. There is a lot more improvements to be made, but yes, we are open to ensuring the greatest measure of protection for people that are material to cases, that is witnesses and victims in cases. It's all about the victim care discussion that the Office of the Attorney General and more particularly the DPP has spoken about. We are fully on board, we fully support that, and we are not going to turn anyone away. We cannot, however, force people into a witness protection program. And so many times we are challenged because a person would not wish to leave their normal way of life.
Minister of State for Investments Kalis Roll has said the government plans to pass legislation which will create an environment to support small businesses while helping to build an entrepreneurial culture in the country. He was addressing a symposium at the police headquarters yesterday.
One of the mistakes that we cannot repeat in the future is to not be in a position that if we find ourselves impacted by an economic crisis, that we don't have the right response mechanism.
Police have closed their investigation into that bank robbery in Long Island a few days ago. 30-year-old Hansel Roll and 24-year-old Dion Watson, both of Exuma, were hauled before the courts today and charged with the crime. Court records allege that on Thursday, May 31st, Roll and Watson stole a 19-foot Boston whaler valued at $25,000 from the Exuma market dock. They're also accused of robbing the Stella Maris Scotia Bank of just over $7,000 while armed with a shotgun. Roll and Watson are also facing 3 possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life charges, and they are also accused of causing $5,000 in damages to Scotiabank's property. They both denied the charges. Bail was denied and they're remanded to prison. A voluntary bill of indictment will be filed. Meantime, Watson and Roll complained through their attorneys that they were brutalized by police, and the court has ordered that they see a doctor. The duo is due back in court on October 2nd. Convicted child molester Andre Berbal will have to represent himself when he appears before the Court of Appeal on July 26th to argue why his unlawful sex conviction should be overturned. This after Berbal's court-appointed attorney Jarim Mangra asked the appellate court during proceedings today to withdraw from the case, saying he doesn't believe in the grounds of appeal filed by Berbal. The court has granted that request. Now, the court has refused to assign Berbal another attorney because he's previously fired another court-appointed lawyer. 2 House members are missing a unique piece of property. We'll tell you what coming up. Stay tuned.